We're back with Puzzle Mania. Puzzle Mania. That piece go right there. There's no fucking way. It does. The hell did that go right there? Well, that was fortuitous. Sitting in front of me, I was just like, nah, there's no way that goes there. But it did. It did. Sometimes it just works. It works. This is Jigsaw Puzzles number 25. I'll try to work on this tree. Work on this tree here. Get it out of the way. Since the other parts are becoming a struggle. What we got going through here? We got this tree part. This is all bluish. That ain't gonna help me. This will probably help me in my endeavors. Nope, this one has a tip of something on it, so that would assume it goes into something. Not over here, but who knows? The last one went in like that too. But this I don't think will. All right, let me put this on here. I'll turn on some video action. This piece I'd really like to get too, but I don't see it anywhere. Maybe that was the tip piece I just put down. What did I do with it? Where did it go? I don't see it. Figure this has got to go together somewhere. No, that's not even fucking close. That might be close. That, I would say, goes together. The other one, no. And you would think this piece would be easy to find. But I'm not seeing it anyway. I've been fooled before, bruv. We've all been fooled. What do you think about this? It's got a little white on it. That's going to be a skeleton's arm. Great. Part of the skeleton's arm. That's got to go there, right? Right. And this has got to go here, right? No. Not even close. You fucking shit banger. No. All right, what's this then? What goes here? What goes there? I have to think this goes here somewhere. Where's that fatter piece? It's got to go in there somewhere. Right there? No. These two fuckers go there. That could possibly go over here. It's severely colorblind here, so I have a bit of a time with the shades. 25. And what do we got here? 11. We'll turn it on. Save. Open that. And is that a tip of yellow? Just a tip of yellow. There we go. I think that's yellow. I don't know if it's yellow or not. Let's turn that on or off. No sound, but then turn the sound on. And we'll watch some subscription.
Low prices. Shop the weekly ad and clip digital coupons worth over $600 in savings every week. Plus track fuel points and save up to $1 per gallon. Save big in the app today. Kroger, fresh.
Kroger, F you.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Linguist Library. It's Emily. So today we're going to talk about how I journal in different languages. We took a poll and this was the video that you guys said you wanted to see from me next. So let's start from the basics. But first, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. This is my journal for
right? Yeah.
this year. It's not really a calendar year.
That's
I
her journal.
started it sometime late November. Sometimes that happens. It's fine. But let's go over everything that I do because I use 3 journaling
Does that go there?
techniques.
There's no
I've
fucking
been
way.
journaling for a long time. I've journals and digital journals. I'm now 100% back on physical journals, mostly. Sometimes I still write
How about this?
end up being digital and start as journaling.
No.
We'll get to that. Le français était ma 5e langue. Je l'ai appris principalement pour pouvoir lire
Oh no.
des accents dans le langue d'origine. Apprendre le français est devenu pour moi une aventure littéraire passionnante, où chaque nouveau mot, chaque nouvelle expression me
That I
rapproche
can't understand.
de l'univers fascinant de cet écrivain emblématique. So this is one of my language practice
See that?
entries, which is entirely descriptive and in a storytelling way.
Don't fit there,
Say,
fucker.
I did these.
I've taught you this.
I did things, and
I don't think this is
is what's
going there
happening
either.
now, and this is what's happening in the future.
Because
So
it would have to
present,
go in already.
past, and future.
It did not. So I need a big fat piece over there.
This second entry in French is entirely philosophical.
What's this
It's not
one?
in first person, as you can see.
There you go.
I am just reflecting on things. I try to practice a language in different
This one's possible.
tenses, because that's how.
No, that one's very possible.
All right, so let's take a look at one of my first entries.
Hell yeah.
You can see
That
how
went but way better than I expected.
what
Now we just need that one piece.
So
That's going to be him right there, right?
a blue pen, a pencil, and just on these 2 pages. But let's first
Alright,
focus
that's-
on languages that I
that
use.
means all these got to go over there.
And these 2 seem to be Portuguese. Yes, they are Portuguese. Okay, so I have one entry over here, and you can see at the top of the page I put the hour and the date, and I also put the day of the week, and it's clearly a Monday. This is when I
Hi, guys.
started to talk to myself. Sometimes I do this. I will reflect on what I'm doing at that very moment. So this is when I decided
going
that
there.
it was an important entry because of the way that this journal is set up. But you can also see, so I put the date there. One of the main reasons why I journal is to improve my relationship with time. It's about how I am now and how I see myself in the future, or whatever.
Let's say that goes
I
there.
could have done better in the present.
And I'm wrong. Maybe.
Future, what
No, that looks like it goes there.
So all those things.
Why the fuck doesn't it? It does.
Motivate me to keep a journal. So why do you want to keep a journal? Right?
Don't.
So mental decluttering, it's kind of like a stream of consciousness when you're just really just pouring words onto the page, how your day was and what you feel about it, your reflections, sometimes cathartic, but not always.
This is going
And
to fill in
that's
soon.
part 1 of my journal. So as you can see here, this fantastic journal has 3 little bookmarks that you can divide your journal, and they're different colors. So it's really, I like colors. They just help pop out the page. It helps to separate things and organize them. So yes, one of the things that this helps journaling in general is with organization.
That's going there.
Structure, organization. Just, it's really nothing more than mental hygiene. Really, kind of like brushing your teeth, especially if you're doing scripted journaling, which is our first technique. Okay, so
This has gotta go
those,
there.
I advise you to do that.
And where's the last little fucker?
And a date, because
There's another little one right there.
During the day,
That's going to be it for that.
kind of
That was
blur
way
through us.
easier than I expected.
But you would be surprised at how
So
often
now this little bastard's missing.
would happen in the
I have no clue where that piece is, and I don't think it's here.
Normally wake up nostalgic, or do you normally wake up hopeful and perky and full of purpose? What is it that, you know, what are your patterns? You get to know that once you start journaling. Now, this is basically my commonplace part of the journal that I put my garden and what I'm planning to do.
This, I suspect, it's going to be a little bit difficult.
This is here, but this is very specific. Basically, I just wanted to show you with
What's this?
journal. Okay, so this next entry is one page. They're both in black.
Seems like it could go right there, but it
But one
doesn't.
of them is very short, and it's in English, and it's just a realization. And then the next page, I wanted to share, just because I feel like people need to value the art of writing letters. It's telling a story about yourself to someone you love.
I'm going to turn this around
Them something in written form is.
and sit on this side.
I wanted to share this because this was a particularly important one for me, and it's not too personal.
Move this off here.
What's up, bro?
I wrote this letter to my grandmother. Unfortunately, my lovely grandmother passed away, and this is a letter that's never going to get sent to her, but it was something that I
Oh.
felt.
Not set on this little settee in a while, and it goes down pretty well. All right, this should be not so bad then.
Voice, and I just wrote it in my commonplace journal because it's something that, you know, I would have liked to say to her in person. And I said it's in my journal. It exists. It's here. That makes me feel better. The second technique that I love to have, and always have in my journals now, is the gratitude technique. So this is the second part of
There's
this
this little yellow piece right here.
journal that I have in hand. And I took inspiration from Marcus
I see
Aurelius'
this.
meditations.
I believe this
Is fully dedicated
is
to
going up here somewhere.
everything that he learned from the people who loved him and how grateful he is to them. and
Maybe
how he
not.
taught them those things. Okay, so let's just take a minute here. If you clicked on this video because you're interested in language learning, this is the part you need to pay attention to.
Learn,
But if you're
listening.
just interested in learning, this is also beneficial because this is really the key to anything I learn, and I think the key to learning itself. Association and repetition. If you look at what I did on this page, I am trying to kill a lot of birds here as a linguist and as somebody who's interested in philosophy and writing. So I took down the word
Well, that was simple.
ikigai,
What the hell is this?
kanji, and I wrote it in its original order because this is a reminder for me as a linguist that human thought can be
Thought?
expressed in various different ways. So
This is gonna
because-
go right
just
there,
because
there.
I write from left to right
Right there.
doesn't mean that that's the only way out there. So this obviously goes from top to bottom. So you have the word
Parts of the roof.
guide. Forgive me my pronunciation. I need to work on that. But it's essentially life purpose, right? And when I came across this word, I was intrigued, of course, because how amazing to be reminded of that. But also, I think I heard this before, not in these exact words, but something similar. And of course, I was talking about flourishing, and Aristotle, his quote that I put on the page here is, "Where your talents and the needs of the world cross, there lies your vocation." So the philosophies are essentially the same, right? They're just meaning.
All right, something's wrong here.
What is it that the world
That goes there.
good at? It's
Don't think it does.
So for me, I associated these two things, and I repeated
It'd be
them
crazy if I had a
to
bunch of
myself.
pieces
So
wrong here.
association and repetition. That's the key to learn.
Unless
Anything
that
in
just
life,
goes there.
especially languages, especially vocabulary.
That softens a
But
lot of
anything really. Association
doubt.
and repetition. I want to leave you with some prompts before I go, and the first one is, if you're going through something that's really quite difficult, what would you say to your best friend if they're going through something you're going through right now? So that's, in a nutshell, be kind to yourself, right? The next prompt is, what's important to you right now? And are you prioritizing your hours, your days towards that goal? The last prompt is, what will be important to you in 10 years? Are you on track with that? That's it for today. I hope you got some value out of this. And if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and maybe leave me a comment. How do you journal? Are you learning different languages or phonetic languages?
So the second millions of light years calculated by time, years plus. What else does it say? Roland
Let me know in the comments.
of years I'm back.
Don't forget to check out our community.
What do you got?
Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye.
WGU's flat rate tuition at your pace formatted generous transfer policy allow you to earn a degree in less time for less money. Pay about half the
That
cost
goes
of the
there.
national average for a
No.
bachelor's degree. Learn more and get started at WGU.edu.
Where the hell is she?
The quarter pounder with cheese has many
Quarter
great
pounder with
things.
cheese. Shit.
Maple flavored griddle cakes isn't one of them.
Don't tell me what I must read. I don't have to read anything. Don't you ever tell me in your little blurb. All right, we'll see. Counting the days. No, that ain't the one. She had another one recently. Oh, yeah. Clarice Lispector. Her poetry. See if we can find this. Translating her poetry. I translated it. All right, let's hear it, Emily. Oh, shit, this thing.
Has a material weight of solitude in the company of others.
That's right, I was already 5 minutes into this, wasn't I?
The second poem I chose for this reading is a bit more raw and very close. Nossa truculência.
Did she say Masia and Plencia?
Voraz, com que comemos galinha ao molho pardo, dando conta da nossa truculência. Eu, que seria incapaz de matar uma galinha.
Didn't I see two pieces together? I did.
Procurando minhocas, deveríamos não comê-las ao seu sangue. Nunca. Nós somos canibais. É preciso não esquecer. E respeitar a violência que temos. E quem sabe, não comêssemos a galinha ao molho pardo, comeríamos gente com seu sangue. Minha falta de coragem de matar uma galinha, e no entanto, comê-la morta, me confunde. Me espanta. Mas aceito.
Espanta.
A nossa vida é truculenta. Nasce com sangue, e com sangue corta-se a união que é o cordão umbilical.
How about that? No. That's way too dark, Bubby.
Como parte da nossa vida,
Bubby.
a truculência
I want the light ones.
é amor também. Our brutality. When I think of the ferocious joy with which we eat chicken and brown gravy, I realize our own brutality. I, who could never kill a chicken, I so like them alive. Their awkward necks wobbling, searching for worms. Should we
Worms.
not eat them in their blood? Never. We are cannibals. Let us not forget. And let us respect the violence within us. For if we cannot eat
It does go there.
chicken and brown gravy, perhaps we would eat people in their blood.
Jesus.
My lack of courage urge to kill a chicken, yet my willingness to eat it dead confuses me, startles me, but I accept it. Our life is brutal. We are born in blood, and in blood is cut the cord that binds us. And how many die in blood? We must believe in blood as part of life. Brutality. It is love.
That's some crazy talk there, Clarice.
This next one is a lot softer, and I think that
Some bullshit,
this
Clarice.
last one maybe.
Clarice!
O que me tranquiliza? O que me tranquiliza é que tudo o que existe como uma precisão absoluta.
Hello, Clarice.
O que for do tamanho de uma cabeça de alfinete não transborda nem uma fração de milímetro, além do tamanho de uma cabeça de alfinete. Tudo o que existe é de uma grande exatidão. Pena é que a maior parte do que existe, com essa exatidão, nos é tecnicamente invisível. O bom é que a verdade chega a nós como um sentido secreto das coisas. Nós terminamos adivinhando, confusos, a perfeição.
Right there. Nice.
What suits me is that everything that exists with absolute precision. What is the size of a pinhead does not spill over even a fraction of a millimeter beyond the size of a pinhead. Everything that exists has a great exactness. The pity is that most of what exists with such precision is technically invisible to us. The good thing is that truth reaches us.
No, this piece is missing already, so I don't know why I continue,
In the end,
but I will.
confused perfection. This one is one of my favorites. Eu sou composta por urgências. Minhas alegrias são intensas, minhas tristezas absolutas. Entubo-me de ausências, vazio de excessos. Eu não caibo no estreito, eu só vivo nos extremos. Pouco não me serve, médio não me satisfaz. Metades nunca foram me
Part of the bad, ain't it?
Todos os grandes
Not the bad head. Hell yeah.
com amor e com carinho são para mim reputações eternas. Palavras até me conquistam temporariamente.
Ilabros.
As atitudes me perdam momentâneamente.
Macian Provincia.
Suponho que
Skitutanian.
me entender não
What is addiction?
e sim me sentir, de entrar em contato. Ou toca, ou não toca. I'm made of urgencies. My joys are intense, my sorrows absolute. I fill myself with absences.
That's it right there, fucker, ain't it? No.
I do not fit in the narrow. I only live in the extremes. Little does not serve me.
That could be right there.
Satisfy me. Perhaps
Or
have never been my strength.
fucking lost that.
Great and small moments, made with love and tender care, become eternal memories to me. Words may win me over for the time being, but actions either lose me or keep me forever. I suppose, understating,
It's more bat.
I suppose understanding me
Where the fuck is this bat? Up here?
but a feeling of making contact. It either reaches you or it doesn't. This last one is a lot more playful.
No.
Não te amo mais. Não te amo mais. Estaria mentindo, dizendo que ainda te quero como sempre quis. Tenho certeza que nada foi em vão. Sinto dentro de mim que você não significa nada. Não poderia dizer mais que alimento um grande amor. Sinto cada vez mais que já te esqueci. E jamais usaria a frase te amo. Sinto. Mas tem que ser a verdade. É tarde demais. Now, the good thing about this poem is that you're supposed to read it from the bottom up, and it completely flips the meaning of the poem. So let me read it in English.
Yeah.
Go from the top to the bottom, and then from the bottom to the top. I don't love you anymore. I would be lying if I said I still want you as I always did. I'm sure that nothing was in vain. I feel inside that you mean nothing. I could never say I harbor great love. I feel more and more that I've already forgotten you. I will never use the phrase I love you. I'm sorry, but I have to tell you, it's too late. Now let's read it from the bottom to the top.
She harsh.
I'm sorry, but I have to tell you, I love you. I will never use the phrase I've already forgotten you. I feel more and more that I harbor great love. I could never say you mean nothing. I feel inside that nothing was in vain. I'm sure that I still want you as I always did. I would be lying if I said I don't love you anymore. So
I don't understand.
I hope you enjoyed these fire poems that I read. I will be making the rest of them available in the community tab, first for the members, and then for everyone. If you haven't yet, don't forget to like and subscribe so other people who have the same taste as you can also come across
There's
this
that
video.
bat.
And if you haven't yet, go vote for this week's video, second video for this week. It's either going to be Linguistics 101 or How I Journal in Different Languages, I think. But if you're interested in how Dante influenced Italian, you should check out my video, How Italian Was Created by Poems, How Italian Was Created by Poets. I'll link it up here. And if you're interested in how Don Quixote shaped Spanish, I am still researching that topic, so I don't mind us taking our time to make that video.
Whoa,
because
don't fall,
it'll just
fucky.
make for a better video. So bear with me. I'm not going anywhere. I hope you're not going anywhere. And I'll see you
I'm
around.
going somewhere.
Bye.
See ya. Want that piece. Alright, where is this? Translated. I'm translating something. Get off there. Do we need more music here? What time is it? 1:07. Damn, it's early. Do need to go to bed earlier tonight. Kind of want to listen to Tank. That was one of the, quite honestly, one of the most touching renditions of a piece of literature I've ever heard. More so that at a recent library book sale, I found an old copy of Tanglewood Tales for $2, but I couldn't get it because the line was too long. I had to go to work.
And seldom let her go alone into the fields. But just at the time when my story begins, the good lady was very busy because she had the care of the wheat and the Indian corn, and the rye and barley, and in short of the crops of every kind all over the earth. And as the season had thus been uncommonly bad, it was necessary to make the harvest ripen more speedily than usual. So she put on her turban, made of poppies, a kind of flower which she was always noted for wearing, and got into her car drawn by a pair of winged dragons, and was just ready to set off. Dear mother, I shall be very lonely while you are away. May I not run down to the shore and ask some of the sea nymphs to come up out of the waves and play with me? Yes, child, answered Mother Ceres. The sea nymphs are good creatures, and will never lead you into any harm. But you must take care not to stray away from them, nor go wandering wandering about the fields by yourself. Young girls without their mothers to take care of them are very apt to get into mischief. The child promised to be as prudent as if she were a grown-up woman. And by the time the winged dragons had whirled the car out of sight, she was already on the shore calling to the sea nymphs to come and play with her. They knew Proserpina's voice, and were not long in showing their glistening faces and sea-green hair above the water, at the bottom of which was their home. They brought along with them a great many beautiful shells, and sitting down on the moist sand where the surf wave broke over them, they busied themselves in making a necklace, which they hung around Proserpina's neck. By way of showing her gratitude, the child besought them to go with her a little way into the fields, so that they might gather abundance of flowers, with which she would make each of her kind playmates a wreath. Oh no, dear Proserpina, cried the sea nymphs.
Three-piece.
Let us go with you upon the dry land. We are apt to grow faint, unless at every breath we can snuff up the salt breeze of the ocean. And don't you see how careful we are to let the surf wave break over us every moment or two, so as to keep ourselves comfortably moist? If it were not for that, we should soon look like bunches of uprooted seaweed dried in the sun. It's a great pity, said Proserpina. But do you wait for me here, and I will run and gather my apron full of flowers, and be back again before the surf wave has broken 10 times over. I long to make you some wreaths that will be as lovely as this necklace of many-colored shells. We will wait then, answered the sea nymphs. But while you are gone, we may as well lie down on a bank of soft sponge under the water. The air today is a little too dry for our comfort, but we will pop up our heads every few minutes to see if you're coming. The young Proserpina ran quickly to a spot where only the day before she had seen a great many flowers. These, however, were now a little past their bloom, and wishing to give her friends the freshest and loveliest blossom, she strayed farther into the fields, and found some that made her scream with delight. Proserpina's apron was soon filled and brimming over with delightful blossoms. She was on the point of turning back in order to rejoin the sea nymphs and sit with them on the moist sands, all twining wreaths together. But a little farther on, what should she behold? It was a large shrub, completely covered with the most magnificent flowers in the world. The darlings, cried Proserpina, and then she thought to herself, I was looking at that spot only a moment ago. How strange it is that I did not see the flowers. The nearer she approached the shrub, the more attractive it looked, until she came quite close to it. Then, although its beauty was richer than words could tell, she hardly knew whether to like it or not. It bore above 100 flowers of brilliant hues, and each
Brilliant.
like the others, but all having a kind of resemblance among themselves, which showed them to be sister blossoms. But there was a deep, glossy luster on the leaves of the shrub and on the petals of the flowers that made Proserpina doubt whether they might not be poisonous. To tell you the truth, foolish as it may seem, she was half inclined to turn around and run away. What a silly child I am, thought she, taking courage. It is really the most beautiful shrub that ever sprang out of the earth.
Yeah.
I will pull it up by the roots
Don't.
and carry it home and plant it in my mother's garden. Holding up her apron full of flowers with her left hand, Proserpina seized the large shrub with the other and pulled, but was hardly able to loosen the soil about its roots. What a deep-rooted plant it was. Again the girl pulled with all her might, and observed that the earth began to stir and crack to some distance around the stem. She gave another pull, but relaxed her hold, fancying that there was a rumbling sound right beneath her feet. Did the roots extend down into some enchanted cavern? Then, laughing at herself as a childish emotion, she made another effort. Up came the shrub, and Proserpina staggered back, holding the stem triumphantly in her hand, and gazing at the deep hole which its roots had left in the soil. Much to her astonishment, this hole kept spreading wider and wider, and growing deeper and deeper, until it really rattling of wheels. Too much frightened to run away, she stood, straining her eyes into this wonderful cavity, and soon saw a team of 4 sable horses, snorting smoke out of their nostrils, and tearing their way out of the earth with a splendid golden chariot whirling at their heels. They leaped out of the bottomless hole, chariot and all, and there they were, tossing their black manes, flourishing their black tails, and curvetting with every one of their hoofs off the ground at once, close by the spot where Proserpina stood. In the chariot sat the figure of a man, richly dressed, with a crown on his head, all flaming with diamonds. He was of a noble aspect, and rather handsome, but looked sullen and discontented, and he kept rubbing his eyes and shading them with his hand, as if he did not live enough in the sunshine to be very fond of its light. As soon as this personage saw the affrighted Proserpina, he beckoned her to come a little nearer. "Do not be afraid," said he, with as cheerful a smile as he knew how to put on. "Come, will not you like to ride a little way with me in my beautiful chariot?" But Proserpina was so alarmed that she wished for nothing but to get out of his reach. And no wonder. The stranger did not look remarkably good-natured in spite of his smile. And as for his voice, its tones were deep and stern, and sounded as much like the rumbling of an earthquake underground as anything else. As is always the case with children in trouble, Proserpina's first thought was to call for her mother. "Mother! Mother Ceres!" cried she, all in a tremble. "Come quickly and save me!" But her voice was too faint for her mother to hear. Indeed, it is most probable that Ceres was then 1,000 miles off, making the corn grow in some far distant country. Nor could it have availed her poor daughter, even had she been
Too late.
hearing. For no sooner did Proserpina begin to cry out, than the stranger leaped to the ground, caught the child in his arms, and again, mounting the chariot, shook the reins, and shouted to the 4 black horses to set off. They immediately broke into so swift a gallop that it seemed rather like flying through the air than running along the earth. In a moment, Proserpina lost sight of the pleasant vale of Enna, in which she had always dwelt. Another instant, and even the summit of Mount Etna had become so blue in the distance that she could scarcely distinguish it from the smoke that gushed out of its crater. But still the poor child screamed, and scattered her apron full of flowers along the way, and left a long cry trailing behind the chariot. And many mothers, to whose ears it came, ran quickly to see if any mischief had befallen their children. But Mother Ceres was a great mother, and could not hear the cry. As they rode on, the stranger did his best to soothe her. "Why should you be so frightened, my pretty child?"
'Cause you're a creeper.
Trying to soften his rough voice. "I promise not to do you any harm. Why, you've been gathering flowers. Wait till we come to my palace, and I will give you a garden full of prettier flowers than those, all made of pearls, diamonds, rubies. Can you guess who I am? They call my name Pluto, and I am the king of diamonds and all other precious stones. Every atom of the gold and silver that lies under the earth belongs to me, to say nothing of the copper and iron, and of the coal mines which supply me with abundance of fuel. Do you see this splendid crown upon my head? You may have it for a plaything. Oh, we should be very good friends.
Yeah.
You will find me more agreeable than you expect when once we get out of this troublesome sunshine." "Let me go home," cried Proserpina. "Let me go home." "My home is better than your mother's," answered King Pluto. "It is a palace all made of gold with crystal windows. And because there is little or no sunshine thereabouts, the apartments are illuminated with diamond lamps. You never saw anything half so magnificent as my throne. If you like, you may sit down on it and be my little queen. I will sit on the footstool. I don't care for golden palaces and thrones, sobbed Proserpina. Oh, my mother! Carry me back to my mother! But she might just as well have talked to the wind that whistled past them. For Pluto urged on his horses and went faster than ever. King Pluto had taken a road which now began to grow excessively deep. It was bordered on each side with rocks and precipices,
Rocks.
between which the rumbling of the chariot wheels was reverberated with a noise like rolling thunder. The trees and bushes that grew in the crevices of the rocks had very dismal foliage. And by and by, although it was hardly noon, the air became obscured with a grey twilight. The black horses had rushed along so swiftly that they were already beyond the limits of the sunshine. But the duskier it grew, the more did Pluto's visage assume an air of satisfaction. After all, he was not an ill-looking person, especially when he left off twisting his features into a smile that did not belong to them. Proserpina peeped at his face through the gathering dusk, and hoped that he might not be so very bright as she had first thought him. Ah, this twilight is truly refreshing, said King Pluto. After being so tormented with that ugly and impertinent glare of the sun, how much more agreeable is lamplight or torchlight, more particularly when reflected from diamonds. It will be a magnificent sight when we get to my palace. Is it much farther? Asked Proserpina. And will you carry me back when I've seen it? We will talk of that by and by, answered Pluto. We are just entering my dominions. You see that tall gateway before us? When we pass those gates, we are at home. There lies my faithful mastiff at the threshold. Cerberus! Cerberus! Come here, my good dog. So saying, Pluto pulled at the reins and stopped the chariot right between the tall, massive pillars of gateway. The mastiff, of which he had spoken, got up from the threshold and stood on his hinder legs so as to put his forepaw on the chariot wheel. And my stars, what a strange dog it was. Why? He was a big, rough, ugly-looking monster with 3 separate heads, and each of them fiercer than the 2 others. But fierce as they were, King Pluto patted them all. He seemed as fond of his 3-headed dog as if it had been a sweet little spaniel, with silken ears and curly hair. Cerberus, on the other hand, was evidently rejoiced to see his master, and expressed his attachment, as other dogs do, by wagging his tail at a great rate. Proserpina's eyes being drawn to it by its brisk motion, she saw that this tail was neither more nor less than a live dragon, with fiery eyes and fangs that had a very poisonous aspect. And while the 3-headed Cerberus was fawning so lovingly on King Pluto, there was the dragon tail wagging against his will, and looking as cross and ill-natured as you can imagine on its own separate account. Will the dog bite me? Asked Proserpina, shrinking closer to Pluto. What an ugly creature he is. Oh, never fear, answered his companion. He never harms people, unless they try to enter my dominions without being sent for, or to get away when I wish to keep them here. Down, Cerberus! Now, my pretty Proserpina, we will drive on. On went the chariot, and King Pluto seemed greatly pleased to find himself once more in his own kingdom. He drew Proserpina's attention to the rich veins of gold that were to be seen among the rocks, and pointed to several places where one stroke of a pickaxe would loosen a bushel of diamonds. All along the road, indeed, there were sparkling gems, which would have been of inestimable value above ground, but which were here reckoned of the meaner sort, and hardly worth a beggar's stooping for. Not far from the gateway, they came to a bridge, which seemed to be built of iron. Pluto stopped the chariot, and bade Proserpina look at the stream, which was gliding so lazily beneath it. Never in her life had she beheld so taupy, so black, so muddy-looking a stream. Its waters reflected no images of anything that was on the banks. It moved as sluggishly as if it had quite forgotten which way it ought to flow, and had rather stagnate than flow either one way or the other. This is the river Lethe.
Lethe.
Is it not a very pleasant stream?
It's dreadful.
I think it's a very dismal one, said Persephone. It suits my taste, however, answered Pluto, who was apt to be sullen when anybody disagreed with him. At all events, its water has one very excellent quality. For a single draught of it makes people forget every care and sorrow that has hitherto tormented them. Only sip a little of it, my dear Persephone, and you will instantly cease to grieve for your mother, and will have nothing in your memory that can prevent your being perfectly happy in my palace. I will send for some in a golden goblet the moment we arrive. Oh, no, 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 cried Persephone, weeping afresh. I had 1,000 times rather be miserable with remembering my mother than be happy in forgetting her. That dear, dear mother, I never, never will forget her. We shall see, said King Pluto. You do not know what fine times we will have in my palace. Here we are. These pillars are solid gold, I assure you. He alighted from the chariot, and taking Persephone in his arms, carried her up a lofty flight of steps into the great hall of the palace. It was splendidly illuminated by means of large precious stones of various hues which seemed to burn like so many lamps, and glowed with 100-fold radiance all through the vast sun. And yet there was a kind of gloom in the midst of this enchanted light. Nor was there a single object in the hall that was really agreeable to behold, except the little Persephone herself, a lovely child, with one earthly flower, which she had not let fall from her hand. It is my opinion that even King Pluto had never been happy in his palace, and that this was the true reason why he had stolen away Persephone, in order that he might have something to love, instead of cheating his heart any longer with his tiresome magnificence. And though he pretended to dislike the sunshine of the upper world, yet the effect of the child's presence, bedimmed as she was by her tears, was as if a faint and watery sunbeam had somehow or other found its way into the enchanted hall. Pluto now summoned his domestics, and bade them lose no time in preparing a most sumptuous banquet, and above all things, not to fail of setting a golden beaker of the water of Lethe by Persephone's plate. I will neither drink that nor anything else, said Persephone, nor will I taste a morsel of food, even if you keep me forever in your palace. I should be sorry for that, replied King Pluto, patting her cheek, for he really wished to be kind if he'd only known how.
Yeah.
You are a spoiled child, I perceive, my little Persephone. But when you see the nice things which my cook will make for you, the appetite will quickly come again. Then, sending for the head cook, he gave strict orders that all sorts of delicacies, such as young people are usually fond of, should be set before Persephone. He had a secret motive in this, for you are to understand it is a fixed law that when persons are carried off to the land of magic, if they once taste any food there, they can never get back to their friends. Now, if King Pluto had been cunning enough to offer Persephone some fruit, or bread and milk, which was the simple fare to which the child had always been accustomed, it is very probable that she would soon have been tempted to eat it. But he left the matter entirely to his cook, who, like all other cooks, considered nothing fit to eat unless it were rich pastry, or highly seasoned meat, or spiced sweet cakes, things which Persephone's mother had never given her, and the smell of which quite took away her appetite instead of sharpening it. But story must now clamber out of Pluto's dominion and see what Mother Ceres has been about since she was bereft of her daughter. Reflect with a loud scream to present the game, just when the chariot was out of sight. Of all the child's outcries, this last shriek was the only one that reached the ears of Mother Ceres. She had mistaken the rumbling of the chariot wheels for a peal of thunder, and imagined that a shower was coming up, and this would assist her in making the corn grow. But at the sound of Prosperous' shriek, she started and looked about in every direction, not knowing whence it came, but feeling almost certain that it was her daughter's voice. It seemed so unaccountable, however, that the girl should have strayed over so many lands and seas, which she herself could not have traversed without the aid of her winged dragons. Then the good Ceres tried to believe that it must be the child of some other parent, and not her own darling Proserpine, who had uttered this lamentable cry. Nevertheless, it troubled her with a vast many tender fears, such as are ready to bestir themselves in every mother's heart when she finds it necessary to go away from her dear children without leaving them under the care of some maiden aunt or other such faithful guardian. So she quickly left the field in which she had been so busy, and as her work was not half done, the grain looked next day as if it needed both sun and rain, and as if it were blighted in the ear and had something the matter with its roots. The pair of dragons must have had very nimble wings, for in less than an hour, Mother Ceres had alighted at the door of her home and found it empty. Knowing, however, that the child was fond of sporting on the seashore, she hastened thither as fast as she could, and there beheld the wet faces of the poor sea nymphs peeping over a wave. All this while, the good creatures had been waiting on the bank of sponge, and once every half minute or so had popped up their foreheads above water to see if their playmates were yet coming back. When they saw Mother Ceres, they sat down on the crest of the surf wave and let it toss them ashore at her feet. "Where is Proserpine?" cried Ceres. "Where is my child? Tell me, you naughty sea nymphs, have you enticed her under the sea?" "Oh no, good Mother Ceres," said the innocent sea nymphs, tossing back their green ringlets and looking her in the face. "We never should dream of such a thing. Proserpine has been in play with us, it is true, but she left us a long while ago, meaning only to run a little way upon the dry land and gather some flowers for a wreath. This was early in the day, and we've seen nothing of her since." Ceres scarcely waited to hear what the nymphs had to say before she hurried on to make inquiries all through the neighborhood. But nobody told her anything that could enable the poor mother to guess what had become of Proserpine. A fisherman, it is true, had noticed her little footprints in the sand as he went homeward along the beach with a basket of fish. A rustic had seen the child stooping to gather flowers. Several persons had heard either the rattling of chariot wheels or the rumbling of distant thunder. And one old woman, while plucking vervain and catnip, had heard a scream, but supposed it to be some childish nonsense, and therefore did not take the trouble to look up. The stupid people! It took them such a tedious while to tell them nothing that they knew, that it was dark night before Mother Ceres found out that she must seek her daughter elsewhere. So she lighted a torch and set forth, resolving never to come back until Proserpine was discovered. In her haste and trouble of mind, she quite forgot her car and the winged dragons. Or it may be she thought that she could follow up the search more thoroughly on foot. At all events, this was the way in which she began her sorrowful journey, holding her torch before her and looking carefully at every object along the path. And as it happened, she had not gone far before she found one of the magnificent flowers which grew on the shrub that Proserpine had pulled up. "Ah," thought Mother Ceres, examining it by torchlight, "here is mischief in this flower. The earth did not produce it by any help of mine, nor of its own accord. It is the work of enchantment, and it is therefore poisonous, and perhaps it has poisoned my poor child." But she put the poisonous flower in her bosom, not knowing whether she might ever find any other memorial of Proserpine. All night long, at the door of every cottage and farmhouse, Ceres knocked called up the weary laborers to inquire if they had seen her child. And they stood, gaping and half asleep at the threshold, and answered her pityingly, and besought her to come in and rest. At the pomp of every palace, too, she made so loud a summons that the menials hurried to throw open the gate, thinking that it must be some great king or queen who would demand a banquet for supper and a stately chamber to repose in. When they saw only a sad and anxious woman with a torch in her hand and a wreath of withered poppies on her head, they spoke rudely and sometimes threatened to set the dogs upon her. But nobody had seen Proserpina, nor could give Mother Ceres the least hint which way to seek her. Thus passed the night. Still she continued her search without sitting down to rest or stopping to take food, or even remembering to put out the torch, although first the rosy dawn and then the glad light of the morning sun made its red flash thin and pale. And I wonder what sort of stuff this torch was made of, for it burned dimly through the day, and at night was as bright as ever, and never was extinguished by the rain or wind in all the weary days and nights while Ceres was seeking for Proserpina. It was not merely of human beings that she asked tidings of her daughter. In the woods, by the streams, she met creatures of another nature, who used in those old times to haunt the pleasant and solitary places, and were very sociable with persons who understood their language and customs, as Mother Ceres did. Sometimes, though, she tapped with her finger against the knotted trunk of a majestic oak, and immediately its rude bark would cleave asunder, and forth would step a beautiful maiden, who was the hamadryad of the oak, dwelling inside of it, and sharing its long life, and rejoicing when its green leaves sported with the breeze. But not one of these lovely damsels had seen Proserpina. Then going into the farther Ceres would perhaps come to a fountain, gushing out of a pebbly hollow in the earth, and would dabble her hand in the water. Behold, up through its sandy and pebbly bed, along with the fountain's gush, a young woman with dripping hair would arise, and stand gazing at Mother Ceres, half out of the water, and undulating up and down with its ever-restless motion. But when the mother asked whether her poor lost child had stopped to drink out of the fountain, the naiad, with weeping eyes, for these water nymphs had tears to spare for everybody's grief, would answer, no, in a murmuring voice. It was just like a murmur in the stream. Often, likewise, she encountered forms who looked like sunburned country people, except that they had hairy ears and little horns upon their foreheads, and the hinder legs of goats on which they gamboled merrily about the woods and fields. They were a frolicsome kind of creature, but grew as sad as their cheerful dispositions would allow when Ceres inquired for her daughter, and they had no good news to tell. But sometimes she came suddenly upon a rude gang of satyrs, who had faces like monkeys and horses' tails behind them, and who were generally dancing in a very boisterous manner, with shouts of noisy laughter. When she stopped to question them, they would only laugh the louder and make new merriment out of a lone woman's distress. How unkind to those ugly satyrs! Once, while crossing a solitary sheep pasture, she saw a personage named Pan, seated at the foot of a tall rock and making music on a shepherd's flute. He too had horns and hairy ears and goat's feet, but being acquainted with Mother Ceres, he answered her question as civilly as he knew how, and invited her to taste some milk and honey out of a wooden bowl. But neither could Pan tell her what had become of Proserpina, any better than the rest of these wild people. And thus Mother Ceres went wandering about for 9 long days and nights, finding no trace of Proserpina, unless it were now and then a withered flower, and these she picked up and put in her bosom, because she fancied that they might have fallen from her poor child's hand. All day she travelled onward through the hot sun, and at night again the flame of the torch would redden and gleam along the pathway, and she continued her search by its light, without ever sitting down to rest.
might as well listen to the rest. Again, very impressed by this story. Even though it's a sick bastard tale. Whoa. Didn't sound very good.
On the 10th day, she chanced to espy the mouth of a cavern, within which, though it was bright noon everywhere else, there would have been only a dusky twilight.
What the
It so
fuck?
happened that a torch was burning there. It flickered and struggled with its flames, but could not harm the gloomy cavern or its melancholy glimmer. Ceres was resolved to leave no spot without a search. So she peeped into the entrance of the cave and lighted it up a little more by holding her own torch before her. In so doing, she caught a glimpse of what seemed to be a woman, sitting on the brown leaves of the last autumn, a great heap of which had been swept into the cave by the wind. This woman, if woman it were, was by no means so beautiful as many of her sex, for her head, they tell me, was shaped very much like a dog's, and by way of ornament she wore a wreath of snakes around it. But Mother Ceres, the moment she saw her, knew that this was an odd kind of a person, who put all her enjoyment in being miserable, and never would have a word to say to other people unless they were as melancholy and wretched as she herself delighted to be.
That was a lucky break.
I am wretched enough now, thought poor Ceres, to talk with this melancholy Hecate, were she 10 times sadder than ever she was yet. So she stepped into the down on the wooden leaves by the dog-headed woman's side. In all the world, since her daughter's loss, she had found no other companion. Oh, Hecate, said she, if ever you lose a daughter, you will know what sorrow is. Tell me, for pity's sake, have you seen my poor child Proserpine pass by the mouth of your cavern? How? Answered Hecate in a cracked voice, and sighing betwixt every word. No, Mother Ceres, I have seen nothing of your daughter. But my ears, you must know, are made in such a way that all cries of distress and affright all over the world are pretty sure to find their way to them. And 9 days ago, as I sat in my cave, making myself very miserable, I heard the voice of a young girl shrieking as if in great distress. Something terrible has happened to the child, you may rest assured. As well as I could judge, a dragon or some other cruel monster was carrying her away. Don't kill me by saying so, cried Ceres, almost ready to faint. Where was the sound? And which way did it seem to go? It passed very swiftly along, said Hecate, and at the same time there was a heavy rumbling of wheels towards the eastward. I can tell you nothing more, except that in my honest opinion you will never see your daughter again. The best advice I can give you is to take up your abode in this cavern, where you will be the 2 most wretched women in the world. Not yet, dark Hecate, replied Ceres. But you first come with your torch and help me to seek for my lost child. And when there shall be no more hope of finding her, if that black day is ordained to come, then if you will give me room to fling myself down either on these withered leaves or on the naked rock, I will show you what it is to be miserable. But until I know that she has perished from the face of the earth, I will not allow myself space even to breathe. The dismal Hecate did not much like the idea of going abroad into the sunny world. But then she reflected that the sorrow of the disconsolate Ceres would be like a gloomy twilight round about them both. Let the sun shine ever so brightly, and that therefore she might enjoy her bad spirits quite as well as if she were to stay in the cave. So she finally consented to go, and they set out together, both carrying torches, and where it was broad daylight and clear sunshine. The torchlight seemed to make a gloom, so that the people whom they met along the road could not very distinctly see their figures. And indeed, if they once caught a glimpse of Hecate with the weave of snakes round her forehead, they generally thought it prudent to run away without waiting for a second glance. As they had travelled along in this woebegone manner, a thought struck Ceres. There is one person, she exclaimed, who must have seen my poor child, and can doubtless tell what has become of her. Why did I not think of him before? It is Phoebus. What? Said Hecate.
What?
The young man that always sits in the sunshine. Oh, pray do not think of going near him. He is a gay, light, frivolous young fellow, and will only smile in your face. And besides, there is such a glare of the sun about him that he will quite blind my poor eyes. So I have almost wept away already. You have promised to be my companion, answered Ceres. Come, let's make haste, or the sunshine will be gone and Phoebus along with it. Accordingly, they went along in quest of Phoebus, both of them sighing grievously, and Hecate, to say the truth, making a great deal worse lamentation than Ceres. For all the pleasure she had, lay indeed miserable, and therefore she made the most of it. By and by, after a pretty long journey, they arrived at the sunniest spot in the whole world. There they beheld a beautiful young man with long curling ringlets, which seemed to be made of golden sunbeams. His garments were like light summer clouds, and the expression of his face was so exceedingly vivid that Hecate held her hands before her eyes, muttering that he ought to wear a black veil. Phoebus, for this was the very person whom they were seeking, had a lyre in his hands, and was making its chords tremble with sweet music, and at the same time singing an exquisite song which he had recently composed. For besides a great many other accomplishments, this young man was renowned for his admirable poetry. As Ceres and her dismal companion approached him, Phoebus smiled on them so cheerfully that Hecate's wreath of snakes gave a spiteful hiss, and Hecate heartily wished herself back in her cave. But as for Ceres, she was too earnest in her grief either to know or care whether Phoebus smiled or frowned. Phoebus, said she, I am in great trouble and have come to you for assistance. Can you tell me what has become of my dear child Proserpina? Proserpina, did you call her name? Answered Phoebus, endeavoring to recollect. For there was such a continual flow of pleasant ideas in his mind that he was apt to forget what had happened no longer ago than yesterday. Ah, yes, I remember her now. A very lovely child indeed. I am happy to tell you, my dear madam, that I did see the little Proserpina not many days ago. You may make yourself perfectly easy about her. She is safe and in excellent hands. Oh, where is my dear child? Cried Ceres, clasping her hands and flinging herself at his feet. Why, said Phoebus, and as he spoke he kept touching his lyre so as to make a thread of music run in and out among his words. As the little damsel was gathering flowers, and she has really a very exquisite taste for flowers, she was suddenly snatched up by King Pluto and carried off to his dominions. I have never been in that part of the universe, but the royal palace, I am told, is built in a very noble style of architecture, and of the most splendid and costly materials. Gold, diamonds, pearls, and all manner of precious stones will be your daughter's ordinary playthings. I recommend to you, my dear lady, to give yourself no uneasiness. Proserpina's sense of beauty will be duly gratified, and even in spite of the lack of sunshine, she will lead a very enviable life. Hush! Say not such a word, answered Ceres indignantly. What is there to gratify her heart? What are all the splendors you speak of without affection? I must have her back again. Will you go with me, Phoebus, to demand my daughter of this wicked Pluto? Pray excuse me, replied Phoebus with an elegant obeisance. I certainly wish you success, and regret that my own affairs are so immediately pressing that I cannot have the pleasure of attending you. Besides, I am not upon the best of terms with King Pluto. To tell you the truth, his three-headed mastiff would never let me pass the gateway, for I should be compelled to take a sheaf of sunbeams along with me, and those, you know, are forbidden things in Pluto's kingdom. Ah, Phoebus, said Ceres with bitter meaning in her words, you have a harp instead of a heart. Farewell. Will not you stay a moment? Asked Phoebus, and hear me turn the pretty and touching story of Proserpina into extemporary verses. But Ceres shook her head and hastened away along with Hecate. Phoebus, who, as I have told you, is an exquisite poet, forthwith began to make an ode about the poor mother's grief. And if we were to judge of his sensibility by this beautiful production, he must have been endowed with a very tender heart. When a poet gets to the habit of using his heartstrings to make chords to his lyre, he may thrum upon them as much as he will without any great pain to himself. Accordingly, though Phoebus sang a very sad song, he was as merry all the while as were the sunbeams amid which he dwelled. Poor Mother Ceres had now found out what had become of her daughter, and was not a whit happier than before. Her case, on the contrary, looked more desperate than ever. As long as Proserpina was above ground, there might have been hopes of regaining her. But now that the poor child was shut up within the iron gates of the king of the mines, at the threshold of which lay the three-headed Cerberus, there seemed no possibility of her ever making her escape. The dismal Hecate, who loved to take the darkest view of things, told Ceres that she had better come with her to the cavern and spend the rest of her life in being miserable. Ceres answered that Hecate was welcome to go back thither herself, but that for her part, she would wander about the earth in quest of the entrance to King Pluto's dominions. And Hecate took her at her word, and hurried back to her beloved cave, frightening a great many little children with the glimpse of that dog's face as she went. Poor Mother Ceres. In her despair, she came to the dreadful resolution that not a stalk of grain, nor a blade of grass, not a potato, nor a turnip, nor any other vegetable that was good for man or beast to eat should be suffered to grow until her daughter were restored. She even forbade the flowers to bloom, lest somebody's heart should be cheered by their beauty. And not so much the head of asparagus ever presumed to poke itself out of the ground without the especial permission of Ceres. You may conceive what a terrible calamity had here fallen upon the earth. The husbandman plowed and planted as usual, and there lay the rich black furrows, all as barren as a desert of sand. The pastures looked as brown in the sweet month of June as ever they did in chill November. The rich man's broad acres and the cottager's small garden patch were equally blighted. Every little girl's flower bed showed nothing but dry stalks. The old people shook their white heads and said that the earth had grown aged like themselves and was no longer capable of wearing the warm smile of summer on its face. It was really piteous to see the poor starving cattle and sheep, how they followed behind Ceres, lowing and bleating, as if their instinct taught them to expect help from her. And everybody that was acquainted with her power besought her to have mercy on the human race, and at all events to let the grass grow. But Mother Ceres, though naturally of an affectionate disposition, was now inexorable. Never, said she, if the earth is ever again to see any verdure, it must first grow along the path which my daughter will tread in coming back to me. Finally, as there seemed to be no other remedy, Quicksilver, otherwise known as Mercury, the messenger, was sent post-haste to King Pluto in hopes that he might be persuaded to undo the mischief he had done and to set everything right again by giving up Proserpina. Quicksilver accordingly made the best of his way to the great gate, took a flying leap right over the three-headed mastiff, and stood at the door of the palace in an inconceivably short time. The servants knew him both by his face and garb, for his short cloak and his winged cap and shoes, and his snaky staff had often been seen thereabouts in times gone by. He requested to be shown immediately into the king's presence, and Pluto, who heard his voice from the top of the stairs, and who loved to recreate himself with Quicksilver's merry talk, called out to him to come up. While they settled their business together, we must inquire what Proserpina has been doing ever since we saw her last. The child had declared, as you may remember, that she would not taste a mouthful of food as long as she should be compelled to remain in King Pluto's palace. How she contrived to maintain her resolution, and at the same time to keep herself tolerably plump and rosy, is more than I can explain. But some young ladies, I am given to understand, possess the faculty of living on air. And Proserpina seems to have possessed it too. At any rate, it was now 6 months since she left the outside of the earth, and not a mortal, so far as the attendants were able to testify, had yet passed between her teeth. This was the more creditable to Proserpina, inasmuch as King Pluto had caused her to be tempted day after day with all manner of sweet, richly preserved fruits and delicacies of every sort, such as young people are generally most fond of. But her good mother had often told her of the hurtfulness of these things, and for that reason alone, if there had been no other, she would have resolutely refused to taste them. All this time, being of a cheerful and active disposition, the little damsel was not quite so unhappy as you may have supposed. The immense palace had 1,000 rooms, and was full of beautiful and wonderful objects. There was a never-ceasing gloom, it is true, which half hid itself among the innumerable pillars, gliding before the child as she wandered among them, treading stealthily behind her in the echo of her footsteps. Neither was all the dazzle of the precious stones, which flamed with their own light, worth one gleam of natural sunshine, nor could the most brilliant of the many-colored gems, which Proserpina had for playthings, vie with the simple beauty of the flowers she used to gather. But still, wherever the girl went, among those gilded halls and chambers, it seemed as if she carried nature and sunshine along with her, and as if she scattered dewy blossoms on her right hand and on her left. After Proserpina came, the palace was no longer the same abode of stately artifice and dismal magnificence that it had been before. The inhabitants all felt this, and King Pluto more than any. My own little Proserpina, he used to say. I wish you could like me a little better. We gloomy and cloudy natured persons have often as warm hearts at bottom as those of a more cheerful character. If you would only stay with me of your own accord, it would make me happier than the possession of 100 such palaces as this. Ah, said Proserpina, you should have tried to make me like you before carrying me on. The best thing you can do now is to let me go again. Then I might remember you sometimes, and think that you were as kind as you knew how to be. Perhaps, too, one day or other, I might come back and pay you a visit. No, no, answered Pluto with his gloomy smile. I will not trust you for that. You are too fond of living in the broad daylight, gathering flowers. What an idle, childish taste that is. Are not these gems which I have ordered to be done for you, and which are richer than any in my crown, are they not prettier than a violet? Not half so pretty, said Proserpina, snatching the gems from Pluto's hand and flinging them to the other end of the hall. Oh, my sweet violet, shall I never see you again? And then she burst into tears. But young people's tears have very little softness or acidity in them, and do not inflame the eyes so much as those of grown persons, so that it is not to be wondered at if, a few moments after, Proserpina was sporting through the hall almost as merrily as she and the 4 sea nymphs had sported along the edge of the surf wave. King Pluto gazed after her, and wished that he too was a child. And little Proserpina, when she turned about, beheld this great king standing in his splendid hall, and looking so grand, and so melancholy, and so lonesome, was smitten with a kind of pity. She ran back to him, and for the first time in all her life, put her small, soft hand in his. I love you a little, whispered she, looking up in his face. Do you indeed, my dear child? Cried Pluto, bending his dark face down to kiss her. Persephone shrank away from the kiss, for though his features were noble, they were very dusky and grim. Well, I have not deserved it of you after keeping you a prisoner for so many months, starving you besides. Are you not terribly hungry? Is there nothing which I can get you to eat? In asking this question, the king of the mines had a very cunning purpose, for you will recollect, if Persephone had tasted a morsel of food in his dominions, she would never afterwards be at liberty to quit them. No, indeed, said Persephone. Your head cook is always baking, stewing, and roasting, and rolling out paste, contriving one dish or another, which he imagines may be to my liking. But he might just as well save himself the trouble, poor facile man he is. I have no appetite for anything in the world, unless it were a slice of bread of my mother's own baking, or a little fruit out of her garden. When Pluto heard this, he began to see that he had mistaken the best method of tempting Persephone to eat. The cooks made dishes and artificial dainties were not half so delicious in the good child's opinion as the simple fare to which Mother Ceres had accustomed her. Wondering that he never thought of it before, the king now sent one of his trusty attendants with a large basket to get some of the finest and juiciest pears, peaches, and plums which could anywhere be found in the world. Unfortunately, however, this was during the time when Ceres had forbidden any fruits or vegetables to grow. And after seeking all over the earth, King Pluto's servant found only a single pomegranate, and that so dried up. Nevertheless, since there was no better to be had, he brought his dry, old, withered pomegranate home to the palace, put it on a magnificent golden salver, and handed it up to Persephone. Now, it happened, curiously enough, that just as the servant was bringing the pomegranate into the back door of the palace, our friend Mercury had gone up the front steps on his errand to get Persephone away from King Pluto. As soon as Persephone saw the pomegranate on the golden salver, she told the servant he'd better take it away again. I shall not touch it, I assure you, said she. If I were ever so hungry, I should never think of eating such a miserable, dry pomegranate as that. It is the only one in the world, said the servant. He set down the golden salver with the wizened pomegranate upon it and left the room. When he was gone, Persephone could not help coming close to the table and looking at this poor specimen of dried fruit with a great deal of eagerness. But to say the truth, on seeing something that suited her taste, she felt all the six-month appetite taking possession of her at once. To be sure, it was a very wretched-looking pomegranate, and seemed to have no more juice in it than an oyster shell. But there was no choice of such things in King Pluto's palace. This was the first fruit she'd seen there, and the last she was ever likely to see. And unless she ate it up immediately, it would grow drier than it already was, and be wholly unfit to eat. At least I may smell it, thought Persephone. So she took up the pomegranate and applied it to her nose. And somehow or other, being in such close neighborhood to her mouth, the fruit found its way into that little red cave. Dear me, what an everlasting pity. Before Persephone knew what she was about, her teeth had actually bitten it of their own accord. Just as this fatal deed was done, the door of the apartment opened, and in came King Pluto, followed by Mercury, who had been urging him to let his little prisoner go. At the first noise of their entrance, Persephone withdrew the pomegranate from her mouth. Mercury, whose eyes were very keen and his wits the sharpest that ever anybody had, perceived that the child was a little confused, and seeing the empty salver, he suspected that she'd been taking a sly nibble at something or other. As for honest Pluto, he never guessed at the secret. My little Persephone, said he, sitting down and affectionately drawing her between his knees. Here is Mercury, who tells me that a great many misfortunes have befallen innocent people on account of my detaining you in my dominions. To confess the truth, I myself had already reflected that it was an unjustifiable act to take you away from your good mother. But then you must consider, my dear child, that this vast palace is apt to be very gloomy, although the precious stones certainly shine very bright, and that I am not of the most cheerful disposition, and that therefore it was a natural thing to seek for the society of some merrier creature than myself. I hoped you would take my crown for a plaything, and me, you laugh, naughty Persephone, me, grim as I am, for a playmate. It was a silly expectation. Not so extremely silly, whispered Persephone. You have really amused me very much sometimes. Thank you, said King Pluto rather dryly. But I can see plainly enough that you think my palace a dusky prison, and me the iron-hearted keeper of it. And an iron heart I should surely have, if I could detain you here any longer, my poor child, when it is now 6 months since you tasted food. I give you your liberty. Go with Mercury. Hasten home to your dear mother. Now, although you may not have supposed it, Persephone found it impossible to take leave of poor King Pluto without some regrets, and a good deal of compunction for not telling him about the pomegranate. She even shed a tear or two, thinking how lonely and chilly the great palace would seem to him, with all its ugly glare of artificial light, after she herself, his only little ray of natural sunshine, whom he had stolen, to be sure, but only because he valued her so much, after she should have departed. I know not how many kind things she might have said to the disconsolate king of the mines, had not Mercury hurried her away. Come on quickly, whispered he in her ear, or his majesty may change his royal mind, and take care, above all things, that you say nothing of what was brought you on the golden salver. In a very short time they passed the great gateway, leaving the three-headed Cerberus barking and yelping and growling, with threefold din behind them, merged upon the surface of the earth. It was delightful to behold, as Persephone hastened along, how the path grew verdant behind and on either side of her. Wherever she set her blessed foot, there was at once a dewy flower. The violet gushed up along the wayside. The grass and the grain began to sprout with tenfold vigor and luxuriance, to make up for the dreary months that had been wasted in barrenness. The starved cattle immediately set to work grazing after their long fast, and ate enormously all day, and got up at midnight to eat more. But I can assure you it was a busy time of year with the farmers, when they found the summer coming upon them with such a rush, nor was I to get to say that all the birds in the whole world hopped about upon the newly blossoming trees and sang together in a prodigious ecstasy of joy. Mother Ceres had returned to her deserted home, and was sitting disconsolately on the doorstep with her torch burning in her hand. She had been idly watching the flame for some moments past, when all at once it flickered and went out. What does this mean? Thought she. It was an enchanted torch, and should have kept burning till my child came back. Lifting her eyes, she was surprised to see a sudden verdure flashing over the brown and barren fields, exactly as you may have observed a golden hue gleaming far and wide across the landscape from the just risen sun. Does the earth disobey me? Exclaimed Mother Ceres indignantly. Does it presume to be green when I have bidden it be barren until my daughter shall be restored to my arms? Then open your arms, dear mother, cried a well-known voice, and take your little daughter into them. And Persephone ran and flung herself upon her mother's bosom. Their mutual transport is not to be described. The grief of their separation had caused both of them to shed a great many tears, and now they shed a great many more, because their joy could not so well express itself in any other way. When their hearts had grown a little more quiet, Mother Ceres looked anxiously at Persephone. My child, said she, did you taste any food while you were in King Pluto's palace? Dearest mother, answered Persephone, I will tell you the whole truth. Until this very morning, not a morsel of food had passed my lips. But today they brought me a pomegranate, a very dry one it was, and all shriveled up, till there was little left of it but seeds and skin. And and having seen no fruit for so long a time and being faint with hunger, I was tempted just to bite it. The instant I tasted it, King Pluto and Mercury came into the room. I had not swallowed a morsel, but, dear mother, I hope it was no harm. But 6 of the pomegranate seeds, I'm afraid, remained in my mouth. Ah, unfortunate child and miserable me, exclaimed Ceres. For each of those 6 pomegranate seeds, you must spend 1 month of every year in King Pluto's palace. You are but half as taught your mother. Only 6 months with me, and 6 with that good-for-nothing King of Darkness. Do not speak so harshly of poor King Pluto, said Proserpina, kissing her mother. He has some very good qualities, and I really think I can bear to spend 6 months in his palace, if he will only let me spend the other 6 with you. He certainly did very wrong to carry me off, but then, as he says, it was but a dismal sort of life for him to live in that great gloomy place all alone, and it has made a wonderful change in his spirits to have a little girl to run upstairs and down. There is some comfort in making him so happy. And so, upon the whole, dearest mother, let us be thankful that he is not to keep me the whole year round.
It's a happy ending. It's going to be the ending of this, too. Mostly done.